Hello, guys. Good day. My name is Rashid. We're back on our Excel series, and today I'm going to. If you have not watched the last video, you can try and check my last video on how to use a shortcut to clear text in Excel cells. Today we're going to look at a very popular command, which is one of the functions you use in Excel, which is VLOOKUP. There are a lot of people who use VLOOKUP today to make sure that they get some things that could probably take some hours done within a short period of time. So I have a data set that has like a session ID of a USSD code. Then I have the service code column, I have the phone number column, the HOPs column, the duration, cost, status, and input. And I also have a data which has the total columns of all the data set that I'm actually looking for. So what I've done is I've taken some few records out of this session ID from the raw data set. So this is my raw data set, and I have some session ID that I've created out of this data set. And what I want to do basically is the challenge is I want to return the values for each of these IDs, using these data records. So the first thing I did was I generated a random session ID from this column. So what I did was I created something like a function which is indirect column and run between a certain number of rows. So I won't take you through that today. The focus is just to get the values corresponding to each of these session ID from this raw data set. So how can this challenge come when you're working in an environment, or probably you're working in a corporate office? So you could get probably a records of all these USSD ID. If probably you're working in telcos, or you are working in any company who uses probably a USSD ID. So what you're going to do is you're going to if you get this data set, probably you get this data set, and you get another data set that is a subset of this data set from another person, and you need to return all the values for some other columns which are blank column, which is the same thing I have here. So you have some columns that are blanked here, and I want to return values for all each of these columns that I have here. So what I would do is I would introduce my VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is a very popular command in Excel, and I want to show you how each of the um, steps, each of the algorithms in the VLOOKUP function. So what I would do first is I would look at the data sets and create look at the range where I need to get each of the values from. So these are the ranges I have in this data set which I need to return the value for. Then the next thing I would do is go back to my data set, put my cursor in the first cell of the first column which I want to return value for. So I put my equal sign, my equal sign operator. Then I would call the function, which is the VLOOKUP function. When I call the function, the first thing I see is what is my lookup value. So for a beginner, or probably someone who just want to learn, who just starts learning Microsoft Excel, you would ask a question that what is VLOOKUP? What is lookup value? So a lookup value, it's actually the value that you are using to search for some other value. So that is one definition. The other definition is the lookup value is the value that helps you search in the raw data set and give you a corresponding value from other columns. So a lookup value helps you search a particular column and check if that value exists in that particular column, so that it can return a corresponding value from the other column that you would specify in the function. So my first VLOOKUP value is this particular cell. So I would click on the cell because it's already written on the computer. So the next thing is the table array. So what is table array? The table array is the range of data sets where your lookup value is going to be searched. Let me come again. A table array is a range of value. If you have done matrices in maybe secondary school or university, you would understand what we mean by an array. An array is a column and row wise structure of data sets. So if you have a column, 3 columns, 2 columns, it is an array called 2 by 3 array, So let me not put you through some of those rigorosity in terms of what array is all about, but I will show you what table array means now. So now I've picked my lookup value. The next thing for me is to go and search in a range of value. So the range of value means the table array. So what I will do is I will go back to my raw data set and look at the raw data set and create an array of values. So I would pick all of this, and if you take a look at what I have in my data set, you would see that I have data exclamation mark B1 to I285. So this is the range of my table. This is the array of my table. B1 to, this column you see here means 2 in Microsoft Excel. B1 to I285. So it means that I'm starting from B1 to I285. And also when you see a data here, this is just like a referencing the sheet name. So when I reference the sheet name, the next thing for me is to look at what column index do I want to return. Now, this is the most critical part that many people always find very difficult to understand. Now, when you say a column index number, when you are reading books, you always have at the back of a novel or probably a textbook indices. Then you see numbers that tells you where you would check to see probably a certain terms or a certain vocabulary. Now, what an index means is a number that is attached to a certain column in the table. If you draw a table and you have column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5 in the table. Now, the index of column 1 is 1. The index of column 2 is 2. The index of column 3 is 3. Now, what Excel is asking us is, from our table array, what column are we returning data from? Now, if you look at my table array from here, which is B1 to I1285, this is where my B1 starts from, and this is where my table starts from. Actually, the raw data set starts from here, but my table starts from here. And the reason for that is I only need to have just the data set from the right hand side, the leftmost side of the data set. So because my lookup value starts from this session ID, so I started my table array from the session ID. Now, the session ID in my table array, which is B1 to I285, will be the column 1, and then the service code will be column 2, This will be column 3, this will be column 4, this will be column 5, column 6, column 7, column 8. Now, what I want to return value for, if I go back to my data set, which is where I'm solving problem. Sorry, I will need to clean this. I don't need this. I don't need a reference here. I only need a number. Now, I want to return a value for service code. Looking at my data set here, service code is on the column 2. So what I will do is I will only write 2 here. When I write the 2 here, then I would tell Excel, this is what we call a default argument. Each of these values you are seeing inside this function are called arguments. Now, for the last part of the VLOOKUP, I want to choose whether I'm using approximate match or an exact match. So what is approximate match? An approximate match tells you that this is an approximate value that I have seen in the raw data set, and this is the corresponding value. Now, if you are using exact match, you are telling Excel that go and search in the raw data set for this lookup value with the exact number of characters and the exact number of spaces in the character. Now, here I would choose false. So when I choose false, I will close the parentheses and press enter. Now, when I press enter, you would realize that I have a value for this particular session ID. Now, what I would do here is I would freeze my array. So how do you freeze array? If you are using Windows 8, you would press function F4 in your Windows 8. If you are using Windows 10, you would press just F4. Now, I will put my cursor in between the B1, which is the table array from this raw data, which is my array here. So also, I will go back here and freeze this column. So why do we freeze array? The reason why we freeze array is we do not want the VLOOKUP function to look beyond the table array, because if it looks beyond the table array, it's going to return some erroneous value, and we don't want that. So because we don't want that, we would freeze the column so that it returns everything within the table array. So I will press F4 and you will see a dollar sign in between that value. For the end of the table array as well, I'll press F4 because I'm using Windows 10. Then the only thing I will do here is just click a drag down. It fills all the value for me. Also, the only thing I can do here is, if I've done one, what I'm going to do is just to copy this cell and paste it here. When I copy this cell and paste it here, it's going to show not applicable or not available, as the case may be. Now, what I would do here is I will change, because if you see here now, if you look at what we have here, you have the lookup value to be B2. But if you look at what we copied, we have A2. So what I would change here is I would change this one to come back to A2. Then also, sorry, let me change again. I will change this one to A, press enter. It returns the same value, but I will change this one. The column index now will now be 3. So if I change the column index to 3, it means that I want to return a value from the phone number cell, which is the column 1, 2, 3 of my table array. Then I will go back and just do a drag down. Doing a drag down will fill the value for that. I can just copy the same value and put here. So I will do the same for all the same method. I will apply the same method for all the columns to get the value